Hi guys, welcome back to another build video. It's Nicole from Horizon here, and I'm with our good friend and aquascaper Ady Myers.
Hello.
Hello Ady.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
So you came and did a scape for us in store, didn't you?
I did, it's always a privilege.
Here we go. So the tank that he's scaping is the ADA Cube Garden 60p 45, so it's a lot deeper front to back. What are you doing here, Ady? How did you start?
With this scape, I just thought I would add the substrate first to make it easier. I already had a plan in mind, obviously, of what I was doing, so I knew with this one I could put the substrate in first.
Do you normally have a plan when you scape, or do you sometimes just wing it?
No, I always plan.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've always got an idea of what I want to do.
Man with a plan.
Yeah.
You're going in with your wood first, is it?
Yep, it was a piece of wood that I found in the store, and when I had the idea, we saw this piece of wood one day and we thought it would be perfect.
What was your idea for this one?
It was a crazy idea based on trying to make a scape that looked a bit like an asteroid crash landing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was a bit, it's not like a diorama or anything, or it was just an idea for a scape. I thought it would look quite cool.
So it looks like it crash lands in.
Yeah, exactly that.
It definitely does look like that.
Yeah, the geostone's really good. It kind of all works with the idea.
It's got a lot of textures and things to it, hasn't it?
It does. It's like striata in rocks.
So would you normally place your rocks like upright like this, or is it just because of the style, or?
No, it's just because of the style. I wanted them to be projecting outwards from the point of impact.
Mhm.
But it also shows off more of the texture of the rocks. It's a really nice stone to work with. Because it's all really, really detailed, it makes it quite easy.
True. So Amazonia version 2's been used. This is a little bit lower in nutrients, but then you've got all the root tabs that you pop in as well. Did you put any of them in?
We did.
You did, yeah? I can't remember.
Yeah. No, they went in.
Because we normally do, don't we? And then we add some like later on.
Yep. You guys love root tabbing.
We do. Keeps everything nice and rich. Can't work out if you've started gluing there yet or not.
No, I haven't. I'm still faffing around with my substrate. I'm a bit particular. I like to. I have a vision in mind, and I need to have things in place to be able to put other things in place.
I mean, that is why the end result's always so good, to be fair. Oh, here we go. Here's the glue.
Yeah, I think James has condensed this video significantly.
How long did it take you to do the scape in total?
I think it took me quite a while. Just not to change anything massively, just to fiddle around with rocks to get them in exactly the right places.
About 2 days?
No. Oh, to plant it as well, maybe.
Yeah.
This was an afternoon, I think, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably 3 or 4 hours. But not a lot changed in all that time. The basic concept was there. It was just fiddling around with stones and then sticking them together.
Do you, I'm sure I've noticed before on your Instagram before, do you put soil over your glue spots?
Yes. I use various things actually, and in this one I used soil because obviously there's a full soil substrate and it was ready available. But if I'm doing a mixed substrate like a sand foreground, sometimes I'll use sand on the joints.
Just to blend it in case you don't want plants there.
Yeah. I've even crushed up bits of rock before. The rock I'm using, and used that.
It is a good idea, and then it blends it more, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, ideally with this you could crush up bits of millennium stone into almost like a powder and use that, and then you would get the right colour if you knew your joints were going to be seen and there was going to be no planting on them. They're a cool little tool.
Yeah, they're pretty handy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're quite accurate at getting into small areas, so you can fill up little gaps.
I noticed you've got a very flat surface on your wood there, but you weren't bothered about that, were you?
No, I knew that I would be able to stick rocks to it. The piece of wood, the shape of the piece of wood worked perfectly, so knowing that I could stick rocks on the front of it.
It's a good idea because a lot of people get scared of like flat surfaces, but you can disguise them.
Yeah, even if you don't stick hardscape to it, you can use plants. So it's always easy to hide them.
Do you like this size tank then, like for like a 60? Do you prefer like a normal size 60p, 60-30, or do you prefer this sort of deeper?
I've always preferred the deeper tanks until recently, and now I don't know, they all just allow you to do different things.
Yeah, because you've had both sizes now, haven't you, to compare?
It's easier to create layers on your hardscape in a deeper tank, but you can create layers with your plants in a narrower tank anyway. It's just something you've got to be mindful of. This one I don't think would have worked so well in a narrower tank. To get the depth with the rock that was supposed to be coming forward and then the wood that was behind it.
Yeah, it would be all a little bit too compact, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or it would get too flat.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have enough depth.
Bit 2D-ish.
Yeah, especially when you fill it with water, because that shrinks it a little bit even more, so the wider tank worked perfectly here.
What is it you're doing here? Is this all the little crushed up pieces you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I didn't just use soil, I added some tiny little pieces of rock in as well onto the intersections, just to make sure that, well, it just makes it look a little bit more natural. I think if something impacts something, then you get big pieces and little pieces.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's not supposed to be an exact replica of anything. It was just an idea that I thought would make a cool scape. Obviously in my head I know exactly how I want to plant it and everything to keep with the theme, so I can see a finished product sort of thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's important to be able to do that, because sometimes you get crazy ideas and people think, what on earth? And then when you pull it off, they see what you mean, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy when you do it yourself, you know exactly what you want to achieve, but if you just try and explain it to somebody, then they don't always see what your vision is.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes why people get a little bit lost off when they ask for, would you change anything online? Because everyone would change something, because it's how people envision things differently. So sometimes it's best just to go with your own flow, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots and lots of detail going on here. You seem to do that a lot in your scapes, lots of little details.
Yeah. This one shows how you can use just detailing rocks to extend your scape. Obviously the way the rocks are projecting from the wood, without putting big pieces of rock at the front, you don't get the extension. So you can use the little detailing rocks just to effectively add shape to your hardscape.
Yeah. You can see there as you're adding more and more, it's getting like much more elongated, and it looks just even better.
Yeah.
And you could use it on like a sand front as well as a soil if you wanted to, that sort of style.
Definitely.
Look at all that detail.
But it just looks a bit more natural.
It does.
You don't just get a big rock that sits somewhere, there's always little rocks around it.
Yeah. Oh, you've made it to planting.
Yeah, finally.
It wasn't that long.
It was just a matter of minutes.
So I'm assuming you had a plan in your head on this bit as well.
Yeah, obviously when When I thought about the scape and it being like an asteroid landing, I wanted it effectively like the flames of an asteroid come directly out the back of the asteroid, obviously, and then that is then crashing onto, it could be a meadow or anything, effectively, just somewhere in the earth.
They're just a patch of land.
Yeah. So there's a lot of greenery, but for the most part, I wanted it all to be fairly low, not very high, the planting, and I only wanted the height in the planting around the asteroid to sort of mimic the flames. So the plants that are around the hardscape are all green plants, and then the plants within the wood are more red plant.
Yeah, the colours are just starting to come out now on that, which is nice.
Yeah, you can start to see.
It's starting to take shape.
Yeah.
So you're going for a Cuba carpet at the front, and then that's blending back into glossy stigma by the looks of it.
Yeah, I like to mix the foreground planting a little bit.
Yeah.
It adds extra textures and slightly different heights and colours, and it just looks a little bit more natural, especially when you get to the rock transitions.
Yeah. It doesn't make it look quite as sort of neat.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah, it just softens it.
It does.
You can add loads of different textures in, especially when you get to around your hardscape areas. If you look in nature, then you always get different plants. If you go into a field, you'll see there'll be grass, and then if there's like even a fence post or something, there'll be taller plants grow up around that, and it's probably just because, I don't know, they get more moisture because the water drips down the fence post or whatever. So, but it's the same with rocks and wood or anything, you know.
True. What's this one? Is this hair grass? I think it is.
Yes.
I see you spraying down a lot there. That's important, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The really small Cuba foreground plants dry out quite quickly. So it's important just to keep them misted up. I also like to plant into wet soil, which is something I didn't used to do.
Did you not?
No, I used to plant into dry soil. What tends to happen is, well, what I find is when you plant in a dry soil, you're picking up a wet plant and then you're spraying down, so your tweezers always get wet, and your plant's wet, and then you stick them into your dry soil, and then your soil always sticks to your tweezers.
Just gets a bit messy, eh?
Yeah. Whereas if you plant in a wet soil, it just, the weight of the soil's a bit heavier, so the plants stay in better, and you don't get so much soil sticking to your tweezers. It's a personal thing, personal preference. Some people partially fill the tank to plant into.
Oh, I don't know about that, like.
No, I'm not that good. I'd get loads of floating plants. Yeah, it took a while, this, didn't it? Luckily, I had A1 prep.
You brought us our tea, didn't you?
I brought you your tea, yeah.
So you're using quite small tweezers at the moment.
Yeah.
You normally use small tweezers?
Well, I do, yeah. I don't like them too small, but these are really fine pincers, so they are good for planting small plants.
And you've got quite a range of tools yourself, from what I've seen.
Yeah, there's a tool for every job. Tool for every job. Obviously, the thicker plants like cryptocornis and things like that, they've got a bigger rosette to plant into the soil, so they need a sturdier grip, and the thicker, heavier pincets do that.
Is that still Eleocoris? Is that
No,
Eriacola?
Eriacolon, yeah.
I forgot you used a little bit of that in there. I only remembered when I seen the little bobbles starting to.
Yeah, they're just really interesting. I quite often use it in foregrounds because what happens is the actual leaves tend to disappear and you just get the flower stalks, and they just add a subtle texture. It doesn't take up a lot of room, and you can look straight through them still. They don't impact hiding hardscape or anything, so they just add a nice texture difference. the length of your tweezers is quite important sometimes as well. Obviously your foreground, you're planting into shallow substrate and there's often a lot of room, whereas when you start to plant stem plants more towards the rear, a longer tweezers easier to use.
Yeah.
You don't tend to have as much room to get your hands in.
And it was quite like that with that tank, because that wood points slightly towards the back.
Yeah.
So it was quite hard to get your stems in, wasn't it? So what are we putting in here?
Ranunculus, yeah, Ranunculus inundatus. It's another plant that's it's quite delicate looking, but it fills areas quite well because it's got quite a big umbrella leaf shape, and it's really interesting but quite delicate still. So it's good for foreground and detailing.
Yeah, I find it has the same effect as your Hydrocotyl reticulata as well.
Yeah.
So that's very much like little stalks.
Yeah.
Still talking about that, and we're on to Pagostemon now. You're moving quick now, Ade.
Mixing it right up.
So Pagostemon helferi, quite a big plant, but quite low.
Yeah, it can fill a lot of space quite easily, but yeah, it doesn't grow very high.
No.
Which is, again, like I was saying earlier, all the planting apart from in and around the wood, I wanted to remain quite low level.
Yeah.
The substrate's banked at the rear to give a bit of elevation in it. It also helps add depth, but all the planting I actually wanted to stay quite low.
Yeah.
And there I am just mixing a bit of hairgrass in there as well, just rather than planting all in individual areas, I like to mix them up just again because it looks a bit more natural.
Yeah, I think it sometimes works quite well for like planting techniques like this, because if you planted all your hairgrass and then you planted all your cuba next or whatever, like you would have just clumps and patches.
Yeah.
With this, it's more of a blend, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you kind of visualise it as you're going on, like, oh, I've got enough of that now.
Yeah, here this side as well, as you can use your plants again, like with the detailing stones and the hardscape to extend it, you can use your plants to do the same thing. So obviously I've got cuba going right up the outsides, but I planted Pagostemon helferi in there as well, just to extend the hardscape out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit higher than the cuba.
We were just saying earlier, weren't we, all this lovely detail, you're probably not going to see too much from the front once things grow in a little bit. But the great thing about this tank and its positioning is you can see it from the top quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not very tall, but these ADA systems, the cabinet heights are only 70 centimetres. Even when you're short, you get a good look down perspective, which is another benefit of having an open top tank.
True.
It's not really something I considered until recently, was like, you never really take into consideration how your scape looks from above and how your planting looks, but you could actually make that another viewpoint. You could purposefully plant and position hardscape in areas to enjoy them from above. Like you say, if you sat down looking at this tank, a lot of that detail and stone around the front will probably get hidden by the plants. But when you look from above, you'll still see the shape.
Yeah.
Because the plants won't be as dense in amongst it.
And you use very, very minimal planting on the rocks when we get there as well, don't you?
Yeah, well, I wanted to keep it. I thought about not planting anything on it at all, but because the stone's got that much detail, it's really nice to look at. But I thought I would probably add a few little pieces to it, because if an asteroid did hit the Earth, then I'm pretty sure bits of plants and things would go up with the rock as well.
Yeah. What's this you're planting here? You're going to try to say the name of this one?
Yes, Staragurni.
You love the name of that, don't you?
No, I can't say that at all. It sounds different every time I say it.
It's a nice plant though, and again, slightly wider leaf, but I think because it's at the back, you get away with it, don't you?
Yeah, there's different techniques. Obviously, some people like to put larger textured leaves towards the front and smaller ones to the back to get perspective, but...
Totally get why people do that as well,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I just can't get my head around it.
No, some scapes suit it more than others as well, especially if you've got like changes in depth from your hardscape, but this is more of an open scape and the rocks are coming forward, so I just wanted to keep the planting at the back a little bit heavier here, just to blend it slightly into the what will be a thicker amount of stem plants.
This is where all your stem plants are going now, isn't it? So you've got, I think, 3 types in there already. So not an awful lot of each plant, but just...
No. Yeah, again, I wanted all of these plants to have like an orange or red coloration, but I didn't want it to be too uniform.
Yeah.
I wanted a little bit of colour change, because if it was flames, then a flame isn't all one colour.
No. And I think because the rest of the scape's very sort of mixture of plants and blended together, it would suit it more, rather than just like blocks of red.
Yeah, definitely. And it's essentially an aquarium, so you want it to look a little bit interesting, so the different textures of the plants, they just add interest. It'll be easy to trim with all them roots sticking up, won't it?
It wasn't too bad. We've done its first trim the other day, and it wasn't too bad, to be honest.
Good.
We managed to top them all as well, so that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yep, I did offer to James that I would come in and do it, like, but he said Nicole didn't find it too bad. I always love this bit.
It is the best bit, isn't it? Yeah. Or sometimes the scariest bit.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing we didn't mention, obviously, that the wood itself was stuck to the rocks, obviously to prevent the wood from floating.
Right, so we've come to the end now, Ady. Thank you very much again for doing another beautiful scape in our gallery.
Thank you for having me.
Check out our little mini cinematic now at the end to see how it's progressed. Cheers, guys.
Cheerio.